The Art of Japanese Living, 12 Timeless Habits for a Calm and Peaceful Life. Written and published by Rising Audiobook. Introduction. Have you ever wondered why some people seem peaceful, even when life is anything but? They aren't free from stress, disappointment, or uncertainty. They simply respond to life differently. In Japan, true self-care has never been about expensive retreats, complicated routines, or escaping reality. Instead, it grows quietly through small daily habits that gently shape the mind, calm the heart, and bring meaning to ordinary moments. Imagine waking each morning with a clear purpose, finding beauty in things that aren't perfect, enjoying your meals without rushing, and ending each day feeling lighter than when it began. These aren't impossible ideals. They're timeless practices that have helped generations create lives rooted in balance, gratitude, and quiet strength. In this audiobook, you'll discover 12 simple yet powerful habits inspired by Japanese wisdom. None of them require dramatic changes or extraordinary discipline. In fact, their greatest strength lies in their simplicity. A single mindful choice, repeated every day, can gradually transform how you think, feel, and experience the world. As we move through each chapter, don't think of these habits as rules to follow. Think of them as gentle invitations, small shifts that can bring greater calm, clarity, and joy into your everyday life. So take a slow breath, leave the noise of the outside world behind for a little while, and let's begin this peaceful journey together. By the end, you may discover that the life you've been searching for has been waiting in the smallest moments all along. Chapter 1. Wake up with a reason. Every morning begins with a choice. Most of us wake up because the alarm rings. We check our phones, rush through breakfast, and dive into another busy day before our minds have even caught up. Days become weeks, weeks become years, and somewhere along the way, life starts to feel like an endless list of responsibilities instead of a meaningful journey. But imagine waking up with something quietly pulling you forward. Not pressure, not fear, not obligation, but purpose. Purpose doesn't have to be grand. It doesn't require changing the world, becoming famous, or achieving extraordinary success. More often than not, it lives in the smallest corners of daily life. It may be caring for your family, mastering a craft, helping others, creating something beautiful, or simply becoming a kinder version of yourself than you were yesterday. This is one of the most enduring lessons from Japanese self-care. A peaceful life begins when each day has a reason. Many people believe motivation comes first. They wait to feel inspired before taking action. Yet real life rarely works that way. Motivation is unpredictable. It appears one day and disappears the next. Purpose, however, remains steady. It quietly whispers, "Keep going," even when enthusiasm fades. Think about the difference between climbing a hill because someone told you to, and climbing because you're eager to see the sunrise waiting at the top. The effort may be the same, but the experience is completely different. A meaningful destination changes the way you experience every step. Purpose also gives us resilience during difficult times. Life will never be free from disappointment. There will be moments when plans fall apart, relationships change, or unexpected challenges test your patience. During these seasons, people driven only by external rewards often lose direction, but those connected to a deeper reason continue moving forward, even if only one small step at a time. That reason becomes an anchor. Imagine an elderly craftsman who has spent decades making handmade wooden bowls. Every morning, he opens his small workshop before sunrise. He isn't chasing wealth or recognition. He simply finds joy in shaping each piece of wood with care, knowing that someone, somewhere will use that bowl during an ordinary family meal. His work is quiet, but it carries meaning. Day after day, that simple purpose fills his life with satisfaction. You don't need to be an artist or master craftsman to experience the same feeling. Purpose can be found in everyday actions. A teacher may find purpose in encouraging one struggling student. A parent may discover it while preparing breakfast with love. A nurse may find it in comforting anxious patients. A student may find it in learning one new idea each day. Even taking care of your own physical and mental well-being can become a meaningful purpose, because a healthier you is better able to care for others. Sometimes we overlook these moments because we're searching for something bigger. Yet happiness rarely arrives all at once. It grows through countless ordinary moments lived with intention. One simple practice can help you reconnect with your reason each morning. Before checking your phone or beginning your routine, pause for just 1 minute and ask yourself, what is one meaningful thing I can do today? The answer doesn't need to be impressive. Perhaps it's listening carefully to someone who needs your attention. Maybe it's finishing a project you've been avoiding. Perhaps it's taking a peaceful walk, reading 10 pages of a good book, or expressing gratitude to someone who has helped you. One meaningful action is enough to change the direction of an entire day. Over time, these small acts create a powerful habit. You stop drifting through life and begin living with intention. And here's something surprising. Purpose often becomes clearer through action, not endless thinking. Many people wait until they have everything figured out before moving forward. But clarity usually arrives after taking the first step. Every meaningful experience teaches you something new about yourself. Every small success points you toward the next. You don't have to discover your life's purpose overnight. Simply discover today's purpose. Tomorrow, discover it again. A peaceful life isn't built in one dramatic moment. It's built each morning when you rise with a reason, however simple it may seem. Those quiet reasons accumulate, guiding your choices, strengthening your character, and reminding you that every ordinary day holds the possibility of becoming deeply meaningful. When you wake with purpose, you don't just begin another day. You begin a life worth living, one sunrise at a time. Chapter 2. Improve by just 1% every day. When people decide to change their lives, they often imagine dramatic transformations. They promise themselves they'll wake up at 5 every morning, exercise for 2 hours, read 50 books a year, completely change their diet, and somehow become a new person overnight. For a few days, the excitement is real. Then life happens. The routine becomes exhausting, motivation fades, and the old habits quietly return. What began with great enthusiasm ends with disappointment, leaving many people believing they simply lack discipline. But perhaps the problem isn't you. Perhaps the problem is believing that meaningful change has to happen all at once. One of the quiet lessons found in Japanese self-care is that lasting improvement is almost always gradual. Instead of chasing perfection, focus on becoming just a little better today than you were yesterday. Imagine placing a single drop of water into a bucket. At first it seems insignificant. One drop changes nothing. But if another drop follows, and another, eventually the bucket fills. No single drop performs the miracle. It is the consistency that creates the result. Our lives work the same way. The smallest actions, repeated day after day, slowly shape who we become. Reading one page may not make you knowledgeable today. Taking a 10-minute walk won't transform your health this afternoon. Saving a small amount of money won't make you wealthy this month. Yet these tiny actions quietly compound over time, producing results that once seemed impossible. The challenge is that our minds are naturally drawn to immediate rewards. We love quick results because they make us feel successful. But the most meaningful growth often happens invisibly, like a bamboo plant growing underground. Progress can remain hidden for weeks, months, or even years before becoming visible. This is why patience is not passive. It is an active form of trust. It means believing that today's small effort matters, even when you cannot yet see the outcome. Consider someone who decides to read only 5 pages every evening before bed. 5 pages hardly seem enough to make a difference. Yet after 1 month, they've read around 150 pages. After a year, they've completed several books. Over 5 years, they possess knowledge that once seemed beyond reach, not because they worked harder than everyone else, but because they refused to underestimate small progress. The same principle applies to every area of life. Confidence isn't built during one inspiring moment. It grows every time you keep a promise to yourself. Health isn't created through one perfect workout. It develops through hundreds of ordinary choices. Strong relationships aren't built with grand gestures alone. They are strengthened by daily conversations, thoughtful words, and small acts of kindness that accumulate over time. There is another reason tiny improvements are so powerful. They are difficult to fear. Large goals can overwhelm us before we even begin. Looking at the mountain makes us doubt our ability to climb it. But taking one small step rarely feels impossible. Instead of saying, "I'll meditate for an hour," begin with 2 quiet minutes. Instead of promising to organize your entire home this weekend, organize one drawer. Instead of deciding to become perfectly healthy, choose one nourishing meal today. Small actions remove excuses because they feel manageable. Once you begin, momentum often carries you further than you expected. Imagine a woman named Aiko who dreams of learning to paint. For years, she tells herself she'll start when she has more free time, better supplies, or greater confidence. The perfect moment never arrives. Then one evening she makes a different decision. She spends just 15 minutes sketching with an ordinary pencil on inexpensive paper. The drawing isn't remarkable, neither is the next one. But she returns the following evening, and the evening after that. Weeks become months. Her hand grows steadier. Her eye notices details she once overlooked. Eventually, friends begin admiring her artwork. Looking back, she realizes her transformation didn't happen during one extraordinary day. It happened through hundreds of ordinary ones. That is how meaningful change almost always unfolds. Quietly, patiently, almost invisibly. There's another hidden benefit to improving by just 1% every day. You stop comparing yourself to other people. Instead of asking, "Am I as successful as they are?" you begin asking a far healthier question. Am I becoming a little better than I was yesterday? That single shift changes everything. Comparison creates pressure. Personal progress creates peace. You begin celebrating consistency instead of perfection. Missing one day no longer feels like failure because you understand that growth isn't about never stumbling. It's about returning to the path again and again. Imagine looking at a stone staircase worn smooth by countless footsteps over hundreds of years. No single step shaped the stone. Time did. Consistency did. Quiet repetition accomplished what force never could. Your character is shaped in exactly the same way. Every encouraging word you choose instead of criticism. Every healthy meal instead of unhealthy convenience. Every page you read instead of endless scrolling. Every deep breath instead of reacting in anger. None of these moments seem extraordinary on their own. Together, they become the architecture of a peaceful life. So don't wait for the perfect Monday, the perfect plan, or the perfect version of yourself. Start where you are. Do one small thing today that your future self will quietly thank you for, because the life you hope to build doesn't appear through one dramatic leap. It is created, one gentle improvement at a time. Chapter 3. Find beauty in imperfection. Perhaps there's an old wooden table with tiny scratches from years of family dinners. Maybe there's a favorite coffee mug with a small chip along the rim, or a notebook whose pages have become soft from constant use. None of these objects are perfect, yet somehow they often feel more meaningful than something brand new. Their imperfections tell a story. Now think about yourself. How much of your life has been spent trying to hide your own imperfections? How many opportunities have you delayed because you didn't feel ready? How often have you criticized yourself for making mistakes that no one else even remembers? Many of us grow up believing that perfection is the destination. We imagine that once we become successful enough, attractive enough, organized enough, or accomplished enough, we'll finally feel peaceful. But peace rarely arrives through perfection. More often, it arrives through acceptance. One of the most beautiful lessons in Japanese self-care is the understanding that flaws are not something to erase. They are part of what gives life its warmth, depth, and authenticity. Nature reminds us of this every day. No two leaves are identical. Mountains are uneven. Rivers never flow in perfectly straight lines. Even the moon changes shape throughout the month. Yet we never criticize these things for being imperfect. In fact, their uniqueness is exactly what makes them beautiful. Human life follows the same rhythm. Your experiences, mistakes, victories and failures have shaped you into someone no one else could become. Trying to erase every flaw is like trying to erase your own story. Unfortunately, modern life often teaches the opposite. We scroll through carefully edited photos, polished success stories, and highlight reels that create the illusion that everyone else has everything figured out. Slowly, we begin measuring our ordinary lives against someone else's carefully selected moments. The result is endless dissatisfaction. We become afraid of making mistakes because we believe mistakes reveal weakness. We hesitate to begin new hobbies because we fear looking inexperienced. We postpone dreams because we think everything must be perfect before we start. But perfection has a hidden cost. It steals courage. Consider a handmade ceramic bowl crafted by an experienced artisan. Its edges may be slightly uneven. The glaze may have tiny variations in color. A small mark left by the maker's hand may remain visible forever. Yet these details don't reduce its value. They increase it. They remind us that a real person created something with care, patience and love. Compare that to a machine-made bowl where every piece is identical. Which one feels more alive? In many ways, our own lives are similar. The moments that shape us most deeply are rarely flawless. They are often messy, uncertain, emotional, and unexpected. A difficult conversation strengthens a relationship. A failed attempt teaches wisdom. A wrong decision leads to a better path. What first appears as an imperfection often becomes the beginning of unexpected growth. This doesn't mean we stop improving ourselves. Growth is important. Learning is important. Doing your best is important. But there is a profound difference between striving for excellence and demanding perfection. Excellence says, I will give this my best effort. Perfection says, if it isn't flawless, it isn't good enough. One mindset creates progress. The other creates fear. Imagine a young woman who dreams of learning the piano. Every time she plays, she notices every wrong note. She compares herself to professional musicians and becomes discouraged. Eventually, she stops practicing altogether. Now imagine another beginner. She also makes mistakes. She misses notes, loses rhythm, and occasionally starts over. But instead of seeing these moments as failures, she views them as evidence that she is learning. Month after month, her confidence grows. Not because she became perfect, but because she became comfortable being imperfect. The difference isn't talent, it's perspective. The same lesson applies to relationships. No friendship is free from misunderstandings. No marriage is free from disagreements. No family is perfect. The strongest relationships are not those without flaws. They are the ones where people choose understanding over unrealistic expectations. They leave room for mistakes, forgiveness, and growth. Perhaps the greatest gift of accepting imperfection is that it softens the way we treat ourselves. Instead of saying, I failed, we begin saying, I'm learning. Instead of thinking, I'm not good enough, we ask, what can this experience teach me? That simple shift changes our inner voice from a harsh critic into a patient guide. Over time, we stop chasing impossible standards and begin appreciating ordinary moments exactly as they are. The rain doesn't ruin the afternoon. It creates a peaceful sound against the window. The wrinkles around a loved one's eyes become reminders of years spent smiling. The worn pages of a favorite book become evidence that its wisdom has been returned to again and again. Imperfection transforms from something to hide into something to cherish. Perhaps that is why peaceful people rarely appear obsessed with being perfect. They understand that life itself is unfinished. There will always be another lesson to learn, another mistake to make, another opportunity to grow, and that is not something to fear. It is something to celebrate. So the next time you notice a flaw in your work, your home, your appearance, or yourself, pause before judging it. Ask whether that imperfection is truly a problem or simply another chapter in your unique story. Because a peaceful life isn't built by becoming flawless. It is built by embracing your humanity with kindness, continuing to grow with humility, and discovering that some of life's greatest beauty exists precisely where perfection ends. Chapter 4. Let nature heal your mind. Have you ever noticed how differently you breathe when you're surrounded by trees? Without anyone reminding you, your shoulders begin to relax. Your breathing slows. The constant stream of thoughts in your mind becomes quieter. Even if only for a few moments, the weight you've been carrying seems a little lighter. Nature has a remarkable way of calming us, not because it solves our problems, but because it gently reminds us that we are part of something much larger than them. Modern life often pulls us in the opposite direction. Our mornings begin with glowing screens. Our days are filled with traffic, notifications, meetings, deadlines, and endless information competing for our attention. Even during moments of rest, many of us continue scrolling, absorbing more noise instead of finding silence. Our minds rarely get the chance to slow down. It's no wonder so many people feel mentally exhausted. One of the quiet wisdoms found in Japanese self-care is the understanding that spending time in nature is not a luxury, it is nourishment for the mind. You don't need a vacation in the mountains or a week in a remote forest. Sometimes healing begins with something as simple as walking beneath a line of trees, sitting beside a lake, tending a small garden, or watching clouds drift slowly across the sky. Nature asks nothing from you. It doesn't expect you to perform, impress, or achieve. It simply invites you to be present. Think about a tree standing through every season. In spring, it blossoms. In summer, it grows. In autumn, it lets go of its leaves. In winter, it rests without shame or guilt. The tree never rushes from one season to the next. It trusts the natural rhythm of life. We, on the other hand, often resist our own seasons. We expect ourselves to be productive every day, energetic every hour, and emotionally strong all the time. When we feel tired or overwhelmed, we criticize ourselves instead of recognizing that rest is part of growth. Nature teaches us a gentler way. It reminds us that slowing down is not falling behind. One peaceful walk outdoors can become a quiet conversation with yourself. Notice the sound of birds instead of traffic. Feel the warmth of sunlight on your face. Listen to the wind moving through leaves. Observe how every flower blooms without comparing itself to the one beside it. These moments may seem ordinary, but they invite your attention back to the present, the only place where peace can truly exist. Imagine a man named Kenji, who spends most of his days working in a busy office. His calendar is always full, and his mind rarely stops racing. Every evening he returns home exhausted, convinced he needs more entertainment to relax. He watches television, scrolls through his phone, and stays awake later than planned. One day, almost by accident, he decides to walk through a nearby park before going home. Nothing extraordinary happens. He simply walks. He notices children laughing, birds searching for food, the gentle movement of tree branches, and the changing colors of the evening sky. For the first time in weeks, his thoughts begin to slow. The next evening he returns, then the evening after that. Gradually those 20-minute walks become the most peaceful part of his day. His problems haven't disappeared. His workload hasn't changed, but his relationship with stress has changed. Nature has quietly taught him how to breathe again. There is another lesson hidden outdoors. Nothing in nature rushes to prove its worth. A flower doesn't bloom earlier because another flower opened first. A river doesn't hurry because the ocean is waiting. The sunrise never apologizes for arriving slowly. Everything unfolds according to its own rhythm. Perhaps we need that reminder more than ever. Much of our anxiety comes from believing we are late to succeed, late to find happiness, late to achieve our goals. But nature measures life differently. It values steady growth over hurried progress. It reminds us that meaningful things cannot be forced. Even silence becomes different outdoors. Inside our homes, silence often feels empty because our minds immediately rush to fill it with worries. Outside, silence feels alive. It carries the sound of rustling leaves, distant birds, flowing water, or gentle rain. Instead of feeling lonely, we begin feeling connected. You don't need hours to experience these benefits. Even 10 mindful minutes can make a difference. Leave your phone in your pocket. Walk without a destination. Notice 5 things you can see, 4 things you can hear, 3 things you can touch, 2 things you can smell, 1 thing you're grateful for. This simple practice gently brings your attention away from endless thinking and back into the richness of the present moment. Nature also teaches acceptance. Storms arrive, trees bend with the wind, rain falls, the sun returns. Nothing lasts forever, not the difficult seasons, nor even the joyful ones. Understanding this makes it easier to face life's challenges with patience. When hardship comes, we remember that winter always gives way to spring. When success comes, we appreciate it more deeply because we know every season is temporary. That awareness creates gratitude instead of fear. Perhaps the greatest gift nature offers isn't relaxation, it's perspective. Standing beneath a vast sky reminds us that not every worry deserves our energy. Watching waves meet the shore reminds us that life moves in cycles. Observing a tiny seed become a mighty tree reminds us that remarkable growth often begins invisibly. The natural world quietly repeats these lessons every day. All we have to do is slow down long enough to notice them. So whenever life feels noisy, complicated or overwhelming, remember that peace may be waiting just beyond your front door. Take a walk. Sit beneath a tree, watch the sunset, listen to the rain. Allow nature to do what it has always done best, not by changing your circumstances, but by gently changing your heart. Sometimes the greatest form of self-care is simply remembering that you belong to the same peaceful rhythm as the world around you. Chapter 5. Create space for peace. Imagine opening a closet so full that clothes spill onto the floor the moment you pull the door open. Finding what you need becomes frustrating. Every search takes longer than it should. Instead of feeling comfortable in your own home, you feel overwhelmed. Now imagine a different closet. There is room between the hangers. Everything has its place. You can see what you own without searching through piles. Simply opening the door brings a sense of calm. The difference isn't that the second closet contains more, it contains less. This simple idea extends far beyond our homes. It reaches into our calendars, our conversations, our thoughts, and even our hearts. One of the quiet lessons found in Japanese self-care is that peace often begins by creating space. Modern life encourages the opposite. We fill every empty minute with something. If we're waiting in line, we check our phones. If we have a free evening, we schedule another activity. We answer messages while eating, listen to podcasts while walking, and think about tomorrow before today has even finished. Busyness has become a symbol of importance. Many people proudly say, "I'm so busy," as though a full schedule proves a full life. But being busy is not the same as being fulfilled. Sometimes the fullest calendar belongs to the emptiest heart. Imagine pouring water into a cup that is already full. No matter how pure the water is, it has nowhere to go. It simply spills over the edges. Our minds work in much the same way. When every hour is occupied, every notification demands attention, and every thought competes for space, there is little room left for creativity, gratitude, reflection, or joy. Peace needs room to breathe. Think about music for a moment. A beautiful melody is not made only of notes. The pauses between the notes give the music its rhythm and emotion. Without moments of silence, every sound would blend into meaningless noise. Life follows the same principle. The spaces between our activities are just as valuable as the activities themselves. A few quiet minutes before breakfast, a peaceful walk without headphones, a slow cup of tea at sunset. These pauses are not wasted time. They are the moments when we reconnect with ourselves. Imagine a woman named Emmy, who believes she must always stay productive. Her mornings begin with checking emails before getting out of bed. During lunch, she answers work messages. Evenings are filled with chores, television, and endless scrolling through social media before finally collapsing into bed. She rarely stops moving, yet she constantly feels exhausted. One weekend, she decides to try something different. Instead of filling every hour, she leaves 30 minutes completely unplanned. At first, the silence feels uncomfortable. She wonders whether she should clean the house, answer another email, or watch another video. Instead, she sits on her balcony with a warm cup of tea. She watches birds flying between rooftops. She notices the changing colors of the sky. She simply breathes. Nothing extraordinary happens, but when those 30 minutes end, something inside her feels lighter. She realizes it wasn't activity she had been missing. It was space. Many of us fear empty space because we mistake it for laziness. If we're not constantly doing something, we worry we're falling behind. But rest is not the opposite of productivity. It is what makes meaningful work possible. Think about an archer preparing to release an arrow. Before moving forward, the bow must first be drawn backward. That pause creates the strength needed to move ahead. In the same way, moments of stillness prepare us to live with greater focus, patience, and clarity. Creating space also means learning the gentle art of saying no. Every yes carries a hidden no. When you say yes to another unnecessary commitment, you may be saying no to family dinner, no to a peaceful evening walk, no to reading a good book, no to simply sitting in silence. Protecting your time is not selfish. It is an act of self-respect. Imagine your schedule as a beautiful garden. If every inch of soil is crowded with plants, none of them receive enough sunlight, water, or room to grow. But when each plant has space, the entire garden flourishes. Your life is no different. Too many commitments crowd out what matters most. Space also belongs inside the mind. Have you noticed how often your thoughts race from one worry to another? You replay yesterday's mistakes. You imagine tomorrow's problems. You compare yourself with others. Soon your mind becomes as cluttered as an overfilled room. Creating mental space begins with something surprisingly simple. Pause before reacting. Take one slow breath before answering an upsetting message. Walk outside instead of immediately solving every problem. Write your thoughts in a journal instead of carrying them all day. Little by little, the noise begins to settle. Clarity rarely arrives through force. It appears when the mind finally has room to think. Relationships also benefit from space. Healthy relationships allow people to breathe. They do not demand constant attention every moment of every day. Sometimes the greatest expression of love is giving someone room to grow, reflect, and return with renewed appreciation. The same kindness should be extended to yourself. Not every hour must be productive. Not every hobby must become profitable. Not every conversation requires an immediate response. Some things become richer when given time. Even nature reminds us of this truth. A forest is beautiful, not only because of its trees, but because of the open spaces where sunlight reaches the ground. A painting becomes powerful because empty areas guide the eye. Traditional Japanese gardens often leave large areas untouched, allowing simplicity itself to become part of the design. The empty space is not missing, it is intentional. Perhaps your life deserves that same intention. What if you left one evening each week unscheduled? What if you spent 10 quiet minutes each morning without looking at a screen? What if you chose one less commitment this month so you could enjoy the ones that truly matter? Small spaces create remarkable changes. They give gratitude room to grow. They allow creativity to appear unexpectedly. They make patience easier. They help us notice beauty that constant busyness hides. Most importantly, they remind us that our worth is not measured by how full our calendar is. A peaceful life is not one where every minute is occupied. It is one where every moment has meaning. So today, don't ask yourself how you can fit more into your life. Ask a different question. What can I gently make room for? Perhaps you'll remove one unnecessary task. Perhaps you'll silence your phone for an hour. Perhaps you'll simply sit by an open window and listen to the wind. Whatever space you create, protect it, because peace rarely forces its way into a crowded life. It enters quietly through the spaces we intentionally leave open, filling them with clarity, balance, and the gentle reminder that sometimes less truly is more. Chapter 6. Clean your space, clear your mind. Have you ever noticed how your mood changes the moment you walk into a room? Some spaces immediately make you feel calm, relaxed and comfortable. Others leave you feeling distracted, overwhelmed or restless before you've even sat down. The difference often has very little to do with the size of the room or the cost of the furniture. More often, it comes down to something much simpler: order. Our surroundings quietly shape the way we think. A room filled with clutter constantly asks for our attention. Every pile of papers reminds us of unfinished work. Every sink full of dishes whispers about another task waiting to be completed. Clothes scattered across the floor become silent reminders of decisions we've postponed. Even when we are not consciously thinking about these things, our minds continue processing them in the background. The result is subtle but powerful. Physical clutter slowly becomes mental clutter. One of the timeless lessons of Japanese self-care is that cleaning is much more than a household chore. It is a daily ritual of mindfulness and respect. It is a way of caring not only for the place where we live, but also for the state of mind we carry into each new day. When we clean with intention, we are not simply removing dust. We are creating an environment where peace has room to grow. Think about what happens when small tasks are ignored. One coffee cup remains on the table after breakfast. The next day, another joins it. A few unopened letters collect on the counter. Shoes are left near the front door. Laundry waits for another day. None of these things seem important on their own. Yet over time, they quietly accumulate until your home begins to feel heavier than it once did. The same thing happens inside our minds. Small worries become larger worries when left unattended. Unfinished conversations remain in our thoughts. Delayed decisions continue asking for our attention. Tiny moments of stress slowly gather until they create a feeling of constant exhaustion. Cleaning reminds us that peace is often restored, one small action at a time. Imagine an elderly man named Hiro, who begins every morning in exactly the same way. Before preparing breakfast or reading the morning newspaper, he spends 15 quiet minutes sweeping the entrance to his home. There are rarely many leaves to remove. Sometimes the walkway already looks clean, yet he continues this ritual every single day. To someone passing by, the task might appear unnecessary. For Hiro, it is a form of meditation. As he slowly moves the broom across the ground, he clears more than fallen leaves. He clears yesterday's worries. He lets go of rushing thoughts about the future. His breathing becomes slower, and his attention settles into the present moment. By the time he finishes, both his doorway and his mind feel refreshed. This is the hidden beauty of mindful cleaning. The goal is not speed. The goal is presence. Imagine washing a single bowl after dinner. Instead of treating it as another chore to finish quickly, notice the warmth of the water flowing over your hands. Feel the smooth surface of the bowl. Watch the soap bubbles disappear as the porcelain becomes clean again. Listen to the quiet sound of running water. For those few minutes, there is nowhere else you need to be. The bowl is being cleaned, but so is your attention. Modern life constantly encourages us to multitask. We answer emails while eating lunch. We watch television while folding laundry. We clean the kitchen while worrying about tomorrow's schedule. Our bodies remain in one place while our minds race somewhere else. Mindful cleaning gently reunites the two. It reminds us that ordinary moments deserve our full attention because they are, in fact, our lives. There is another reason why a tidy environment matters. Every object inside your home silently communicates something to your brain. A stack of unpaid bills says, "Don't forget me." An overflowing closet says, "You still need to organize this." Broken items waiting to be repaired quietly ask for attention every time you walk past them. Eventually, your mind becomes like a room where dozens of people are talking at once. It becomes difficult to think clearly because too many things are competing for your attention. Removing unnecessary clutter lowers that invisible noise. Suddenly, Your thoughts have room to breathe. This doesn't mean your home needs to look perfect. Perfection is never the goal. Some of the most peaceful homes are also the simplest. Every object has a purpose. Every room offers space to move, think, and rest. Instead of constantly demanding attention, the environment quietly supports daily life. The same principle applies to our digital world. Many of us carry thousands of unread emails, unused applications, endless notifications, and photographs we never look at again. Digital clutter creates mental clutter just as easily as physical clutter does. Organizing your phone, deleting unnecessary files, or turning off constant notifications can create the same sense of relief as cleaning a room. Peace should exist wherever your attention spends its time. Cleaning also teaches us an important lesson about humility. No matter how carefully we maintain our homes, dust will always return. Leaves will continue falling, windows will need cleaning again, laundry will never remain folded forever. At first, this repetition may seem frustrating, but there is quiet wisdom hidden within it. Life itself is built upon repeated acts of care. Friendships require ongoing attention. Health requires daily choices. Families need regular kindness. Peace also requires gentle maintenance. Instead of viewing these repeated tasks as burdens, we can begin seeing them as rhythms that keep us connected to the present. Think about making your bed each morning. It takes only a few minutes. Yet when you return later in the day, the room feels more welcoming. The small effort you made in the morning becomes a gift waiting for your future self. The same kindness appears each time you wash your cup immediately after using it, return a book to its shelf, or wipe the kitchen counter before going to bed. None of these actions seem remarkable, yet together they create an atmosphere where calm naturally grows. Most importantly, remember that cleaning your surroundings is also a reminder to care for yourself. As you remove unnecessary objects from your home, ask yourself what emotional clutter you may also be carrying. Old disappointments, unspoken resentment, constant self-criticism, worries that no longer serve you. Just as every room benefits from occasional cleaning, every heart benefits from gentle release. A peaceful home does not happen by accident. It is created through small acts of care, repeated day after day. Every swept floor, every folded blanket, every washed dish, and every organized shelf becomes a quiet expression of gratitude for the life you are living. When you care for the space around you, you are also caring for the person who lives within it. And over time, you discover a beautiful truth. Cleaning is never only about creating a tidy home. It is about creating a peaceful mind. Because when your surroundings become lighter, your thoughts often do the same, making room for greater clarity, deeper gratitude, and the quiet joy that comes from living with intention. Chapter 7. Eat with balance, not excess. When was the last time you truly experienced a meal? Not while answering emails, watching television, scrolling through your phone, or rushing out the door. Just sitting quietly, noticing the colors on your plate, the aroma rising from the food, and the simple pleasure of each bite. For many of us, eating has become another task squeezed into an already busy day. We finish meals so quickly that we barely remember tasting them. We eat while distracted, often consuming far more than our bodies actually need. In doing so, we lose one of life's simplest opportunities for peace. One of the timeless lessons in Japanese self-care is the importance of eating with balance rather than excess. This philosophy is not about strict diets or denying yourself enjoyment. Instead, it encourages a healthier relationship with food, one built on awareness, appreciation, and moderation. It reminds us that nourishment is about more than filling the stomach. It is about caring for the body with kindness and treating every meal as an opportunity to slow down. Modern life often teaches us that bigger is better. Larger portions, endless buffets, oversized drinks, and constant snacking have become normal. We are surrounded by advertisements encouraging us to eat more, buy more, and consume more. Without realizing it, we begin believing that satisfaction comes from abundance. Yet true satisfaction rarely comes from excess. More often it comes from recognizing when enough is enough. Think about drinking water after a long walk on a hot afternoon. The first glass feels refreshing. The second still brings comfort. But if you continue drinking far beyond what your body needs, the experience changes completely. Something that once felt nourishing becomes uncomfortable. The same principle applies to nearly every area of life. More is not always better. Sometimes, enough is exactly what brings peace. Imagine sitting down to a simple meal, a bowl of steamed rice, fresh vegetables, a warm bowl of soup, and perhaps a piece of grilled fish or tofu. Nothing extravagant, yet everything has been prepared with care. Before taking the first bite, you pause for just a moment. You notice the warmth of the bowl in your hands. You appreciate the colors, the aroma, and the effort that brought the meal to your table. Instead of rushing, you eat slowly, chewing carefully, and allowing yourself to fully experience each bite. Suddenly, eating becomes something more than satisfying hunger. It becomes an act of gratitude. Many of us have forgotten what it feels like to eat without distraction. Our minds remain busy while our hands automatically move from plate to mouth. By the time the meal is finished, we wonder where it went. Yet our bodies need time to recognize fullness. Eating slowly allows us to notice the gentle signals our bodies constantly provide. We begin to recognize the difference between hunger and habit, between true nourishment and unnecessary excess. Consider a man named Satoshi, who always rushed through lunch during his workday. He ate at his desk while answering emails, barely looking at his food. By the middle of the afternoon, he often felt tired and reached for another coffee or sugary snack. One day, he decided to make one small change. Instead of eating inside the office, he carried his lunch to a nearby park. He left his phone in his bag and focused only on his meal. At first, the silence felt unusual. Without constant distractions, he became aware of how quickly he had always eaten. As the days passed, he naturally slowed down. He noticed flavors he had previously ignored. He felt satisfied with smaller portions and no longer experienced the heavy feeling that followed rushed meals. His afternoons became calmer, his energy improved, and lunch transformed from a hurried obligation into one of the most peaceful moments of his day. The food had not changed, his attention had. Another beautiful lesson from Japanese living is respecting the rhythm of the seasons. Every season offers different gifts. Fresh berries in spring, crisp cucumbers in autumn, warm root vegetables during winter. Eating foods that naturally belong to each season not only creates variety, but also reminds us that we are part of nature's rhythm. Life is constantly changing, and our meals can become quiet celebrations of those changes. Gratitude also has an important place at every table. Before eating, take a brief moment to appreciate everyone who made your meal possible. Think of the farmers who planted the crops, the rain that nourished them, the people who transported the food, and the hands that prepared it. This simple pause changes the entire experience. Instead of seeing food as something ordinary, we begin recognizing it as a gift supported by countless unseen efforts. Eating with balance also means learning to trust your body. Some days you may need more nourishment because you've worked harder or exercised more. Other days your appetite may naturally be smaller. Rather than following rigid rules, listen carefully to your body's quiet wisdom. Pause halfway through your meal and ask yourself, am I still hungry? Or am I simply continuing because the food is here? There is no judgment in the answer. There is only awareness. The environment where we eat matters as well. A clean table, fresh air, soft conversation, and an unrushed atmosphere can completely transform an ordinary meal. Compare eating hurriedly in front of a television with sharing dinner around a quiet table. The food may be identical, yet the experience feels entirely different. Peace is not found only in what we eat, but also in how we eat. This philosophy extends far beyond food itself. When we learn to recognize the beauty of enough, we begin applying that wisdom to other areas of life. We become satisfied with enough possessions instead of endlessly collecting more. Enough success instead of constant competition. Enough work instead of endless busyness. Food becomes a daily reminder that balance creates freedom. Of course, balance does not mean perfection. There will be birthdays, holidays, family celebrations, and favorite desserts. Those joyful moments deserve to be enjoyed without guilt. The goal is not to eliminate pleasure, but to protect it. When every meal becomes an indulgence, indulgence loses its meaning. But when we eat thoughtfully most days, special occasions become even more meaningful. The next time you sit down to eat, resist the urge to rush. Take one slow breath before your first bite. Put your phone aside. Notice the colors, textures, and flavors on your plate. Eat slowly enough that your body has time to tell you when it has had enough. Offer quiet gratitude for the meal before you and the life that allows you to enjoy it. Because every meal is more than an opportunity to feed the body. It is an invitation to practice mindfulness, gratitude, patience, and balance. And as these simple habits become part of your daily routine, you may discover that true nourishment is not measured by how much you consume, but by how fully you experience each ordinary moment. Chapter 8. Treasure. Every moment. How many moments have you lived without truly noticing them? Think about yesterday. Can you remember the taste of your breakfast? The expression on someone's face when they greeted you? The sound of the wind as you walked outside? Or did the entire day pass in a blur of thoughts about what had already happened or what still needed to be done? Most of us spend our lives physically present but mentally somewhere else. We replay old conversations. We worry about tomorrow's responsibilities. We imagine future success. Meanwhile, the only moment we can actually experience quietly slips away. One of the most beautiful lessons in Japanese self-care is to treasure every moment, because no experience will ever happen in exactly the same way again. This very morning will never return. This conversation will never happen again in precisely this form. Even if you visit the same place tomorrow, you will not be the same person you are today. The weather will be different. The light will change. Your thoughts will have shifted. Life continues moving forward, one unrepeatable moment at a time. When we truly understand this, ordinary experiences become extraordinary. Imagine sharing tea with your grandmother on a quiet afternoon. You talk about simple things, the weather, family memories, a favorite recipe. Nothing dramatic happens. Years later, after she is gone, you realize that afternoon wasn't ordinary at all. It was one of life's priceless gifts. At the time, you didn't know it. None of us ever do. That is why presence matters. It allows us to recognize the value of a moment while we are still living it. Modern life makes this difficult. Our attention is constantly being pulled in different directions. Notifications interrupt conversations. Phones appear during meals. We photograph sunsets instead of watching them. Sometimes we become so busy documenting life that we forget to actually experience it. Imagine standing beside the ocean at sunrise. The sky slowly changes from deep blue to soft gold. The waves move steadily toward the shore. The cool morning air brushes against your face. Now imagine spending that entire sunrise adjusting camera settings, checking messages, and wondering how many people will like the photo you post online. Which version truly experienced the sunrise? The answer is obvious. Presence cannot be replaced by a picture. Memories become meaningful because we lived them fully, not because we recorded them perfectly. Imagine a young father named Daiichi who works long hours. Every evening, his 5-year-old daughter runs excitedly to greet him at the front door. For months he hugs her while still answering emails on his phone. He hears her words, but only halfway. One evening, something changes. Before entering the house, he switches off his phone and leaves it in his bag. When his daughter runs toward him, he kneels down, looks into her eyes, and listens with complete attention as she excitedly tells him about a butterfly she saw that afternoon. The conversation lasts less than 5 minutes. Yet years later, neither of them remembers the emails. Both remember the feeling of being fully seen. That is the quiet power of presence. The greatest gift you can offer another person is not expensive presents or perfect advice. It is your complete attention. People rarely remember every word we say. They remember how we made them feel. When we listen without interruption, speak without rushing, and remain fully engaged, we communicate something deeper than language. We say, "This moment matters because you matter." The same principle applies when we are alone. Have you ever rushed through your morning coffee without tasting it? Walked through a beautiful park while staring at your phone? Finished a meal without remembering what you ate? These moments are not lost because they were ordinary. They are lost because our attention was somewhere else. Treasuring each moment begins with simple awareness. Notice the warmth of sunlight entering your room. Listen to birds before traffic drowns them out. Feel the texture of a book beneath your fingers. Watch steam rising from a cup of tea. Observe the changing colors of the evening sky. None of these experiences require money. None require special talent. They simply require attention. There is another reason presence brings peace. An anxious mind usually lives in the future. A regretful mind usually lives in the past. A peaceful mind lives here, now. When your full attention rests in the present moment, many worries lose their power. The future has not arrived. The past cannot be changed. Only this breath is real. Only this step. Only this conversation. Only this sunrise. Nature quietly demonstrates this lesson every day. A bird does not spend the morning worrying about next week's weather. A flower does not compare today's bloom with yesterday's. A flowing river does not resist the present curve in its path. Everything in nature exists completely where it is. Perhaps this is why spending time outdoors often feels so calming. Nature gently invites us back into the present. There is also wisdom in realizing that difficult moments are temporary. When life becomes painful, we often believe the feeling will last forever. But just as joyful moments pass, so do challenging ones. Storms give way to clear skies. Winter eventually welcomes spring. Understanding this allows us to experience both happiness and hardship with greater balance. We learn not to cling too tightly to pleasant moments or fear difficult ones. Instead, we meet each experience with openness. One simple practice can help strengthen this habit. Several times each day, pause for just 1 minute. Take a slow breath. Look around carefully. Ask yourself, what is beautiful about this moment? The answer may surprise you. Perhaps it's laughter coming from another room, the scent of fresh rain, the comfort of your favorite chair, the warmth of sunlight on your hands, the quiet rhythm of your own breathing. Small moments become extraordinary when we notice them. As this habit grows, gratitude begins to appear naturally. You stop waiting for major milestones to feel happy. You discover that peace is hidden inside ordinary days. A conversation with a friend, fresh bread from the oven, children playing outside, a gentle breeze through an open window, the final page of a wonderful book. These moments quietly shape a meaningful life. Near the end of our lives, very few people wish they had answered one more email or spent another hour worrying. Instead, they remember simple moments shared with people they loved, the walk they almost skipped, the laughter around the dinner table, the quiet evenings they once believed were ordinary. In truth, they were extraordinary all along. So slow down, put your phone away for a while, look into the eyes of the person speaking to you, listen without planning your next response. Watch the sunset without trying to capture it. Drink your tea while it is still warm. Smile at a stranger. Hold someone's hand a little longer. Because life is not made of years, it is made of moments. And every moment you fully experience becomes a quiet treasure that no one can ever take away. The peaceful life you seek is not waiting somewhere in the future. It is already here, hidden inside this very moment, patiently waiting for your attention. Chapter 9. Build quiet inner strength. Strength is often misunderstood. Many people imagine strength as being loud, fearless, or impossible to break. They picture someone who never cries, never struggles, and never doubts themselves. But real strength is usually much quieter. It is the ability to remain calm when everything around you feels uncertain. It is choosing patience instead of anger, understanding instead of blame, and hope instead of despair. It is not about pretending life is easy. It is about learning to face life's challenges without allowing them to steal your peace. One of the most valuable lessons in Japanese self-care is that inner strength does not need to announce itself. Like the roots of a great tree, hidden beneath the ground, its greatest power often remains unseen. Think about bamboo. During a storm, an old oak tree may resist the wind with all its might until its branches snap. Bamboo behaves differently. It bends with the wind instead of fighting against it. When the storm passes, it quietly stands upright once again. Its flexibility is its strength. Human beings are much the same. When we try to control everything, we become exhausted. Life is unpredictable. Plans change. People disappoint us. Unexpected challenges appear without warning. The stronger we cling to the illusion that everything must go exactly as planned, the more we suffer. Quiet strength begins with accepting that uncertainty is part of life. Acceptance does not mean giving up. It means recognizing reality so that we can respond wisely instead of reacting emotionally. Imagine a woman named Yumi who arrives at work one morning only to learn that a project she spent months preparing has been cancelled. Her first instinct is frustration. She feels disappointed and discouraged. She has two choices. She can spend weeks replaying the situation, blaming others, and carrying resentment. Or she can take a slow breath, acknowledge her disappointment, and ask herself, what can I learn from this experience, and where do I go from here? The challenge remains the same, only her response changes. That response is where inner strength lives. Life will always test us. There will be criticism that feels unfair, dreams that don't unfold as expected, friendships that slowly fade, days when nothing seems to go right. We cannot always choose our circumstances, but we can choose the attitude we bring to them. This choice often happens in very small moments. Someone speaks to you harshly. Do you immediately respond with anger, or do you pause before answering? Traffic delays your journey. Do you spend the next hour filled with frustration, or do you accept what cannot be changed? A mistake embarrasses you. Do you criticize yourself endlessly, or do you treat yourself with patience and compassion? Every one of these moments strengthens or weakens your inner foundation. Imagine carrying a glass of water filled to the very top. The slightest bump causes it to spill. Now imagine carrying a glass that is only half full. The same bumps occur, yet very little is lost. When our minds are already overflowing with stress, worry, and resentment, even small inconveniences overwhelm us. A peaceful mind has room to absorb life's inevitable challenges. This is why daily habits of self-care matter so much. Quiet walks, mindful breathing, adequate rest, meaningful conversations, time in nature. These practices may seem simple, but together they build emotional resilience long before difficult times arrive. Inner strength is not created during the storm. It is prepared beforehand. There is another misconception about strength. Many people believe asking for help is a sign of weakness. In reality, recognizing your limits requires tremendous courage. Even the strongest trees depend on the forest around them. Their roots intertwine beneath the soil, supporting one another in ways we cannot see. Human beings are no different. Speaking honestly with a trusted friend, accepting guidance from someone wiser, allowing others to support you during difficult seasons. These are not acts of weakness. They are expressions of wisdom. Quiet strength also means letting go of the need to win every argument. Sometimes peace is more valuable than proving you're right. Imagine two people pulling opposite ends of a rope. As long as both continue pulling, the struggle continues. The moment one person lets go, the conflict changes completely. Not every disagreement deserves your energy. Not every criticism requires your response. Choosing silence at the right moment is often a greater demonstration of strength than speaking louder. Nature teaches this lesson beautifully. Mountains remain steady while storms pass overhead. The ocean does not argue with the waves. The moon continues shining, whether clouds hide it or not. Everything in nature reminds us that calmness possesses its own quiet power. This does not mean suppressing your emotions. Sadness deserves to be felt. Grief deserves compassion. Disappointment deserves acknowledgement. Inner strength is not pretending everything is fine. It is allowing yourself to experience difficult emotions without becoming trapped inside them. Feel them, learn from them, then gently let them move through you like passing weather. One helpful practice is to ask yourself a simple question whenever life becomes difficult. Will this still matter a year from now? Many of the frustrations that consume our attention today will barely be remembered in the future. That perspective softens our reactions. It helps us reserve our energy for what truly matters. As you continue your journey toward a peaceful life, remember this: your greatest strength may never be recognized by the world. Others may never notice the moments when you chose patience over anger, hope over fear, or forgiveness over resentment. But those quiet decisions shape your character more deeply than any public achievement ever could. Every calm response, every patient breath, every act of resilience, every moment you choose peace instead of panic. These are the invisible bricks that build an unshakable inner foundation. Life will continue bringing storms, that is certain. But when you cultivate quiet inner strength, you no longer fear every dark cloud. You learn that, like the bamboo bending gracefully in the wind, you can face hardship without breaking. And when the storm finally passes, as every storm eventually does, you will discover that the greatest victory was never avoiding difficulty. It was becoming the kind of person who could walk through it with calm courage and an untroubled heart. Chapter 10. Stop comparing your journey. Imagine walking through a peaceful garden in spring. A cherry tree is already covered in delicate pink blossoms, while a nearby maple tree still stands bare. If you judged the maple by the cherry tree's progress, you might think something was wrong with it. But return a few months later, and the maple has become a lush canopy of green. By autumn, it transforms into brilliant shades of red and gold, becoming one of the most beautiful sights in the entire garden. Neither tree is early, neither tree is late, neither tree is late. Each simply blooms in its own season. Human life works the same way, yet we often forget this simple truth. We compare our careers, relationships, income, appearance and achievements with those of other people, believing that everyone else is moving ahead while we are falling behind. Instead of appreciating our own path, we become distracted by someone else's. One of the quiet lessons in Japanese self-care is that peace begins when comparison ends. Every person has a unique journey, and every meaningful life unfolds according to its own rhythm. Today's world makes comparison almost impossible to avoid. Social media shows us carefully selected moments of success, celebration, and happiness. We see promotions, weddings, vacations, beautiful homes, and smiling faces, but we rarely see the sleepless nights, disappointments, failures, or sacrifices hidden behind those moments. We compare our everyday reality with someone else's highlight reel, and the comparison is unfair from the very beginning. Imagine a young man named Haru. At 28, many of his friends are getting married, buying homes, and advancing quickly in their careers. Every time he opens his phone, he feels as though he has accomplished too little. Instead of celebrating the progress he has made, he constantly asks himself, "Why am I so far behind?" One afternoon, Haru visits a botanical garden. As he walks among hundreds of different plants, he notices something remarkable. Some flowers bloom in early spring, while others wait until summer. Some trees remain green throughout the year, while others lose every leaf before growing again. None of them appear anxious about another plant's progress. Each grows according to its own nature. Standing quietly among them, Haru realizes that he has been expecting his life to follow someone else's calendar. That realization changes everything. Comparison does more than damage confidence. It also steals gratitude. When we focus only on what other people have, we stop appreciating what already exists in our own lives. A loving family, good health, loyal friends, meaningful work, and peaceful moments often disappear from our attention because our eyes are fixed elsewhere. Imagine carrying a lantern through the darkness. If you spend your entire journey staring at someone else's brighter light, you will never notice that your own lantern is already showing you the path ahead. Your journey doesn't require another person's success. It requires trusting your own direction. There is an important difference between inspiration and comparison. Inspiration encourages growth by asking, "What can I learn from this person?" Comparison creates discouragement by asking, "Why am I not enough?" One question opens the door to possibility. The other quietly closes it. We can admire others without measuring our worth against theirs. Perhaps the healthiest comparison we can ever make is with ourselves. Instead of asking whether we are ahead of someone else, we can ask whether we have become a little wiser, kinder, or more patient than we were yesterday. Real growth is often invisible. It happens every time you remain calm during a difficult conversation, keep a promise to yourself, or choose gratitude instead of frustration. These quiet victories rarely receive applause, but they shape your character more deeply than public success ever could. Comparison also causes us to rush through life. We chase careers that don't truly fulfill us because they impress other people. We buy things we don't need because everyone else seems to have them. We hurry into relationships, achievements, and goals simply because we believe we are running out of time. But a rushed life rarely becomes a peaceful one. Nature reminds us that patience is part of growth. A mountain never competes with the ocean. The moon never envies the sun. A rose never wishes it were a lotus. Every part of nature fulfills its own purpose without comparing itself to anything else. Perhaps we were meant to live that way too. As you continue your own journey, remember the garden, remember the cherry blossom and the maple tree. Each becomes beautiful in its own season, and neither one questions its timing. Your life does not need to look like anyone else's to be meaningful. Trust your pace. Celebrate your progress. Keep growing one day at a time, because a peaceful life is never built by reaching someone else's destination. It is built by walking your own path with patience, gratitude, and the quiet confidence that your season will arrive exactly when it is meant to. Chapter 11. Practice daily gratitude. What if the greatest source of happiness wasn't something you needed to find, but something you simply needed to notice? Many of us spend our lives looking toward the future. We believe we'll finally feel grateful when we earn more money, achieve our biggest goals, find the right relationship, or solve every problem. Yet every time we reach one destination, another appears just beyond it. Happiness becomes something we are always chasing, but rarely catching. One of the quiet lessons in Japanese self-care is that gratitude changes this pattern. Instead of asking life to become better before we appreciate it, gratitude teaches us to appreciate life as it is, while continuing to grow. Gratitude is much more than saying thank you. It is a way of seeing the world. It is the habit of recognizing blessings that are so familiar, we often overlook them. The warm bed that welcomed you last night, the clean water flowing from your tap, the fresh air you breathe every morning, the friend who listens without judging you. These ordinary gifts rarely demand attention, yet they quietly support our lives every single day. Imagine waking up tomorrow and discovering that the only things you still have are the things you appreciated today. Which parts of your life would remain? That simple question reminds us how easily we take life's greatest treasures for granted. We become so accustomed to what we have that we stop noticing its value until it disappears. Think of a gardener who walks through the same garden every morning. If he only notices the weeds, he will believe the entire garden is struggling. But if he also notices the blooming flowers, the healthy trees, and the fresh green leaves, his experience changes completely. The garden itself has not changed. Only his attention has. Gratitude works in exactly the same way. It does not ignore life's difficulties. It simply refuses to let those difficulties become the only thing we see. Consider a woman named Hannah, who has experienced a difficult year. She lost her job, several of her plans fell apart, and many mornings she struggled to feel hopeful. One evening, a friend encouraged her to write down 3 things she appreciated before going to sleep. At first, the exercise felt almost impossible. Her first list included only simple things: a warm bowl of soup, a beautiful sunset, and a phone call from her sister. She continued the habit anyway. After several weeks, something unexpected happened. During the day, she began noticing small moments of beauty because she knew she would reflect on them later that evening. She appreciated birds singing outside her window, kind conversations with strangers, and the comfort of a peaceful walk. Her problems had not disappeared, but they no longer occupied every corner of her attention. Gratitude had quietly changed the way she experienced each day. This is one of gratitude's greatest gifts. It trains the mind to notice abundance instead of absence. Left on its own, the human mind naturally focuses on problems, dangers, and what is missing. Gratitude gently redirects our attention toward what is already supporting us. The more often we practice this way of seeing, the more natural it becomes. Gratitude also transforms relationships. Think about how you feel when someone sincerely thanks you for something small. Perhaps you prepared a meal, offered encouragement, or simply listened during a difficult conversation. Genuine appreciation makes people feel valued. It reminds them that their kindness has been seen. The same is true in our own lives. Instead of assuming the people around us know how much they matter, we can tell them. A simple "thank you for always being there," or "I appreciate everything you do," can strengthen relationships more than we often realize. Kind words cost very little, but their impact can last for years. Gratitude even changes the way we experience ordinary routines. Washing dishes becomes a reminder that we had food to eat. Folding laundry reminds us that we have clothes to wear. Preparing breakfast becomes an opportunity to care for ourselves instead of another task to complete. The activities themselves remain the same, but the meaning behind them becomes richer. One simple habit can make gratitude part of everyday life. Before going to sleep each night, pause for just a few minutes and ask yourself, what were 3 moments today that made life a little brighter? They do not need to be extraordinary. Perhaps someone smiled at you. Perhaps you enjoyed the sound of rain against the window. Perhaps you finished something you had been avoiding. Over time, this practice gently trains your mind to notice goodness wherever it appears. As you continue building a peaceful life, remember that gratitude is not reserved for life's biggest moments. It lives in ordinary mornings, shared meals, quiet conversations, warm sunlight, and familiar faces. The happiest people are not always those who have the most. More often, they are the people who notice the most. So today, pause for a moment, look around with fresh eyes. Appreciate the people you love before they become memories. Appreciate the ordinary moments before they become yesterday, because a peaceful life does not begin when everything becomes perfect. It begins the moment you recognize that, even now, there is already so much to be thankful for. Chapter 12. Let go of what no longer serves you. Imagine trying to climb a mountain while carrying a backpack filled with rocks. At first, the weight might seem manageable, but as the journey continues, every step becomes more difficult. Your shoulders ache, your breathing becomes heavier, you begin wondering why the climb feels so exhausting. Then someone asks a simple question: what's inside your backpack? When you finally open it, you discover that many of the rocks have no purpose at all. You've been carrying them simply because you never stopped to question whether they still belonged there. Many of us live exactly this way. We carry old regrets, unhealthy relationships, unnecessary possessions, unrealistic expectations, painful memories, and beliefs about ourselves that no longer reflect who we are. We continue carrying them, not because they help us, but because they have become familiar. One of the most liberating lessons in Japanese self-care is understanding that creating space for a peaceful life requires letting go. Just as a tree releases its leaves in autumn to prepare for new growth, we too must learn that not everything is meant to stay with us forever. Letting go is often misunderstood. Many people believe it means forgetting the past or pretending difficult experiences never happened. But true letting go is something gentler. It means accepting what has already happened without allowing it to control what happens next. It means honoring the lessons while releasing the burden. Think about your home for a moment. Open a drawer that hasn't been organized in years, and you'll probably find items you forgot you even owned. Old receipts, broken pens, tangled cables, clothes that no longer fit, and objects kept just in case. Every item occupies physical space, but it also quietly occupies mental space. Each unnecessary possession asks for your attention in some small way. Now imagine opening that same drawer after removing everything you no longer need. Suddenly, finding what matters becomes effortless. The drawer feels lighter, and somehow, so do you. The same principle applies to the mind. Old resentments are like clutter, hidden in forgotten corners. Every time you remember the person who hurt you years ago, your heart becomes heavy once again. Although the event ended long ago, the emotional burden continues because you've never given yourself permission to set it down. Forgiveness does not mean saying that harmful behavior was acceptable. It means deciding that your future deserves more attention than your past. Imagine a man named Ren who has carried resentment toward an old friend for nearly 10 years. Every time he hears that friend's name, anger rises inside him. The other person has long since moved on, yet Ren continues reliving the same painful memories. One afternoon, while walking through a quiet park, he notices a child trying to fly a kite. The kite struggles to rise because several broken strings have become tangled around its tail. The child patiently removes each knot until finally the kite lifts effortlessly into the sky. Watching this simple moment, Ren realizes something important. His resentment has become those tangled strings. It isn't holding the other person down. It is holding him down. That realization does not erase his pain overnight, but it gives him the courage to begin letting it go. We also hold on to outdated versions of ourselves. Perhaps someone once told you that you weren't intelligent enough, talented enough, attractive enough, or capable enough. Maybe those words were spoken decades ago, yet they still echo quietly whenever you face a new challenge. The tragedy is that many people continue believing stories that were never true to begin with. You are not the same person you were 5 years ago. You have learned. You have grown. You have grown. You have survived experiences that once seemed impossible. Why continue living according to an identity that no longer belongs to you? Sometimes, the heaviest burden we carry is not something someone else gave us. It is the unrealistic expectation that we must always be perfect. We tell ourselves we should never fail, never disappoint anyone, never make mistakes, never need rest. These expectations quietly steal our peace because they ask us to become something no human being can ever be. Letting go of perfection creates room for self-compassion. It allows us to say, I am still learning, and that is enough. Relationships also require thoughtful letting go. Not every friendship is meant to last forever. Not every season of life includes the same people. Some relationships encourage growth, kindness, and peace. Others constantly create anxiety, criticism, or emotional exhaustion. Learning to step away from relationships that repeatedly harm your well-being is not an act of cruelty. It is an act of wisdom. Just as a gardener prunes unhealthy branches so the tree can flourish, we sometimes need to release relationships that prevent healthy growth. This does not mean becoming cold or unforgiving. It simply means recognizing that protecting your peace is part of caring for yourself. Letting go also applies to our daily routines. Perhaps you continue saying yes to commitments that no longer align with your values. Perhaps you spend hours scrolling through social media, even though it leaves you feeling drained. Perhaps you cling to habits that once comforted you, but now quietly steal your time and energy. Every habit asks a simple question: am I helping you become the person you want to be? If the answer is no, perhaps it is time to release it. Nature offers endless reminders that letting go is not a loss. Every autumn, trees surrender their leaves without fear. If they clung tightly to every leaf, new growth would never arrive in spring. The river never tries to hold on to yesterday's water. Clouds never remain in one place forever. Life itself is a constant movement of releasing and receiving. Perhaps we find peace not by resisting that movement, but by trusting it. One simple practice can help you begin. At the end of each week, ask yourself 3 gentle questions. What thought no longer serves me? What habit no longer helps me? What burden am I ready to set down? You do not need to solve everything at once. Sometimes letting go begins with one small decision, one apology, one donated box of belongings, one boundary, one forgiving thought, one deep breath. These small acts quietly transform the direction of your life. As this audiobook comes to its final chapter, perhaps this is the most important lesson of all. A peaceful life is not created only by adding new habits. Sometimes it is created by gently releasing what no longer belongs. When you let go of unnecessary possessions, your home feels lighter. When you let go of resentment, your heart feels lighter. When you let go of comparison, your mind feels lighter. When you let go of impossible expectations, your spirit feels lighter. And in that newly created space, something beautiful begins to grow. More gratitude, more clarity, more joy, more freedom, more peace. The life you are seeking may not require becoming someone entirely new. It may simply require becoming lighter. So take a quiet moment today and ask yourself, what am I still carrying that I no longer need? Then, with kindness toward yourself and trust in the journey ahead, begin setting it down. Because sometimes the greatest act of self-care is not holding on more tightly. It is learning, one gentle step at a time, how to let go. As we come to the end of this journey, one truth becomes beautifully clear. A peaceful life is not created through one extraordinary decision. It is created through countless ordinary ones. Every morning you wake with a purpose. Every small improvement you make. Every moment you choose progress over perfection, gratitude over complaint, calm over hurry, and presence over distraction. These quiet choices slowly shape the person you become. The wisdom you've discovered throughout this audiobook was never meant to remain as ideas on a page. It was meant to become part of your everyday life. You don't need to master all 12 habits tomorrow. In fact, trying to change everything at once often leads to changing nothing at all. Instead, begin with just one habit. Practice it patiently until it becomes part of who you are. Then gently add another, like drops of water filling a bucket. These small actions will eventually transform your life in ways that seem almost effortless. There will still be difficult days. There will be moments of stress, disappointment, and uncertainty. But now you have something stronger than perfect circumstances. You have simple habits that can guide you back to balance whenever life feels overwhelming. Remember, peace is not something waiting for you at the end of a perfect future. It is something you create in the present, one mindful breath, one thoughtful choice, and one kind action at a time. So as you leave this audiobook, carry these lessons with you. Walk a little slower, appreciate a little more, let go a little easier, live a little more intentionally, because the peaceful life you've been searching for has never been far away. It has been quietly waiting within your daily habits all along.